I'm going to focus on two things. The first is that, one of the things that comes up again and again at doorsteps is this issue of taxation and duplication of services. As a small entity inside of a big county, we provide a bunch of services that the county provides, and in so doing, we constantly have to justify the services we provide that they're better than the counties or that they do something different. That's a huge issue, and we should constantly challenge ourselves to tell that story of the services that we provide in the city of Takoma Park. Now, one example of a priority area is our recycling and trash services, where right now the service we provide is not as good as the counties. And that's an immediate area where you need to look at it and say, okay, we need to figure out how to get our program to be better. It's a roughly $800,000 program cost in the city's budget, and I think we should address that right away because it's an area where many people, experts, for example, in sanitation and trash services throughout the city would say, we could do a better job of recycling. There's a bunch of things we could add to the services, for example, kitchen composting household waste. The second area that I wanted to identify was something that came up earlier that Dan and Fred, you've talked about it as well. The redevelopment of New Hampshire Avenue and Langley Park Crossroads is a huge priority. Those development plans, the county's plans, the sector plan, the urban design guidelines, are going to affect what our community looks like for 50 years as that development starts to happen. And we have this really crucial opportunity to work with the planning board at the county level, where we have great relationships already through the existing council, through the mayor, through city staff, to try to get those urban design guidelines changed. What we want are urban design guidelines, and I think what the county wants, Dan said this earlier, the county would be perfectly happy if we looked like downtown Silver Spring. That's not what we want. We want to try to maintain a boundary between our residential areas and the new CR zones. We want to try to have an imprint of green and pedestrian accessibility in those areas, and that's something we have to champion as this next council. We have to do it now.
Great. Thank you.
The police budget is something like $5.6 million, and part of that comes out of the general fund. There actually also is both a county and a state pass back to us in a rebate. We also have the speed camera revenues. Speed camera revenues are now like $2.4 million a year. It's actually more money than the city gets from income tax. So we have all these sources of money coming in. What I'd say in terms of the police budget is, in general, no, I wouldn't support cutting it. But one thing you can do is, and Colleen brought this up before, we can start programming more of that speed camera money into the police budget to pay for officers, to pay for their supplies. Another thing, and this is a great thing that exists in the city's budget, and it represents really forward thinking by the city manager and previous councils, we have an equipment reserve. Equipment reserve is $2 million plus, so you can buy new police cars, other equipment in the city. Potentially, with the police force, you can imagine over a couple of years, are there any delays you could make in buying equipment that would allow you to save a little bit of money over time? I could see how you potentially could make adjustments like that, efficiencies in process, delaying, for example, replacement vehicles, that could save a little bit of money if you needed to. I served for a while on the board of a great organization headed by Bruce Baker called CHEER, Community Health and Empowerment Through Education and Research. And Kathy Porter was on the board of that as well. And what we did was we brought together socioeconomically diverse members of Takoma Park's community, also nearby Silver Spring. And I was one of the facilitators, along with Kathy and others, to try to figure out what people wanted from a health perspective in the community. What were the things that were important to them? And trying to pull out that information and create indicators around those things. And one of the things that stood out, again and again and again, was access to health services, diverse health services. I hear the same thing when I walk around the ward, that people want to make sure that that site stays in a provider mode to provide something, whether it's an urgent care facility, whether it's the existing facility, whether it's doctors and other medical specialty practices. We have a limited ability to influence what they do. It's a sovereign religious institution, and as Fred said, it's the decision being made at the state level. But the county or the city, and if I were on the city council, I would try to negotiate as hard as possible to maintain medical services there.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to just say that raising taxes right now in this economic climate would not be an option for me. That would not be my choice, increasing the city's rate of property taxes or potentially other taxes. That would be the very last thing I would look at. Stop there.
Oh, okay. Let's go back to Ward 3. And
I mean, I never mind People's Republic. I would be satisfied with a well-functioning representative democracy. We're a town that is full of people who are incredibly busy. They work really long days, and they come home and they just want to spend time with their family. And they don't necessarily have time to engage with city activities, with city committees. And it's only, as Fred said, a very small fraction of the community that's the loudest activist group. We need City Council, the members on City Council, to be great listeners to all those residents and to be great representatives of all their views in council. And then to act on those views and to be leaders, to do things that are hard. Because 90% of the people may not be able to show up to council meetings and voice their support for something the council is trying to do. And there may only be the 10% there who oppose it. And you really need to make sure that the council is serving the interest of all those constituents. I think that's the most important thing, not whether we're a People's Republic, but whether we're a functioning representative democracy.